Hello readers, I'm Amy and today we are doing my summer book haul, which is not as bad as I thought it was. My goal for 2020 was to buy 12 books, and as we all know from my last book haul, that didn't happen. I've already doubled that, but whenever I imagined all the books that I was buying in summer, I'm like, oh, there's so many, I don't want to do this video, it's gonna take forever. But it's not as bad as I thought. It's bad! There are a lot of books here, but it's not as bad as I thought. Usually I have an order that I go with, where I purchased it from. I didn't organize these beforehand, I just put my books on the floor. Here I am. We're just gonna start at the top of a pile. Let's start with the series. I forgot to grab a book, that reminds me. I must have forgotten to put it down. I got N.K. Jemison's How Long Till Black Future Month. I will put my review up there if you want to hear more on it. I really loved this, and I decided I want to try more of her. And Barnes & Noble did not have the first book of the Dreamblood trilogy or duology, they only had the second one. So instead I got the Broken Earth trilogy, which I have been nervous about. I want to try it. I've been getting into fantasy a little more, but I also hear it can be kind of tough to get into and to get started. But I just loved How Long Till Black Future Month so much that I want to give this a go. So yeah, I got the whole series instead of the first book, like you do. A while back, it was part of my fall haul, I got Dorothy Must Die from one of my friends, and I hadn't read it yet by the time of my spring haul, and so my goal is that I need to read the books that I haven't read yet that I purchased 2 seasons ago, otherwise I need to give it up because I must not want to read it that badly. So I did finally read this and I loved it so much. I ended up getting the rest of the series. Not this book. The rest of the novel series, not the novellas. There are 9 prequel novellas. That seems like a lot. I may or may not read those. I don't know yet. But I got the rest of the just novel series. That is The Wicked Will Rise, The Yellow Brick War, and The End of Oz. Also, these covers are pretty cool. I'm liking it. It's basically this other girl from Kansas gets caught up in a storm and goes to Oz, and Dorothy ruined everything, and it's pretty awesome. Then, scooch those over here. I was at Barnes & Noble, as one is, making trouble, as one does, and they have this whole end of a shelf that's constantly updated with reads on racism, and so I grabbed a couple. I have Clean and White, A History of Environmental Racism, which sounds really interesting. I didn't realize when I picked it up, because there's no author photo or anything, and I didn't look it up, I just thought it sounded interesting. I didn't realize this is actually written by a white author. I already paid for it, I already bought it, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. I'll give it my honest review, but I think the topic is really interesting because I never thought of environment stuff in a racist context. Next is Barracoon, The Story of the Last Black Cargo by Zora Neale Hurston. Now, I previously read Their Eyes Were Watching God. I think that was last year, maybe the year before, and I loved it. I've been wanting to try some more Zora Neale Hurston, but I've also been nervous because I loved that book so much. But I saw this, it's fairly short. It's a nonfiction, and I'm always trying to add a little more nonfiction to my reading, so grabbed this. And then I also have What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Blacker. Now, the title is amazing. The cover has this cool little cutout. The author's kind of cute, let's be honest. He's a looker. He's cute. That's not why I picked up the book. I just started this. I'm 2 stories into it, and I'm loving it. It's a collection of memoirs and essays. The introduction is really great. It's just talking about his experience being black and things that white people do, which his description of that is so funny. And then his first book is N-word fight story. So there's different ways you can say the word. You can say it with the A on the end or with the ER on the end. I mean, I'd rather you not say it, but you can. And the A at the end is more of a with your buddies sort of a thing, and the ER is direct insult, I guess. And he's telling the stories of his friends and family who have had people call them the N-word with the ER and how they got into a fight about it. And he's like, I really want someone to use that word on me. I want to get into a fight. And it's like, he doesn't want that to be used on him because, like, that's an unpleasant experience. But also, he wants to have his fight story. And you're going through this essay like, is he going to get to have his fight story? Is someone going to call him that word? Is he going to do something about it? What's going to happen? And I really liked the end of that story. It wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be, but I really liked his thought process in that. The story that I'm reading right now is street cred, and it's, you know, like, wanting to impress the girls, and, like, what you would think if you looked in his closet, if you look at what he wears. So, just a memoir in essays, and I'm really liking it. I like the writing, I like the subjects that he's got going on, would highly recommend. Of course, I'm not finished with it yet, but still gonna just take a leap and say I recommend you read that. Then Sickened, The True Story of a Lost Childhood. This is a book that has been on my TBR for quite some time. Whenever I did the mental health-a-thon in 2019, which is when I just started my booktube, I had gone through Goodreads and found a bunch of mental health literature that I wanted to read at some point. And I finally got a copy of this. And this is about a girl whose mother has Munchausen's, which is where you say that your kid is sick with such and such a thing, and you basically make them dependent on you so that you can take care of them because you just can't, you have to be able to take care of them. It's a whole thing. I'll see if I can find some resources to link down below. But I'm really interested in reading this. Like I said, it's been on my TBR for like a year. I believe Victoria, from what Victoria read, said that she had read it before and it was tough, but it was good. So looking forward to that. Bastard Out of Carolina. So let's go back yet again to my sexual assault videos that I did. There was a set of 3. This was one of them that was recommended, and I really, really wanted to read it, but it wasn't available at any of my libraries. And Michelle from Thor Wants Another Letter got a hold of me on Twitter, and she's like, hey, did you ever read that book? And I'm like, no, it's on my list. I'm just gonna have to buy it. And she's like, so what's your wish list? And I'm like, well, if you're getting me something, then what's your wish list? So we did a little book trade. And she got me Bastard Out of Carolina, and it's been, what, probably 2 months since she sent this, and I haven't read it yet. And it's one of those books, like, it is the very next one on my list. I'm going to read that book next. But that particular list of I'm reading this book next is actually a surprisingly long list, and I keep getting distracted, but I will read it. I'm super excited. It's the book out of those recommendations videos that I was most excited to get to. It just looked like something I would love. Then we have Tituba, Black Witch of Salem. This is about Salem. You have this woman who moves in with, can't remember their names. It's like the main family in most Salem witch retellings. And she's kind of an herbalist. Like, she uses the herbs that she's familiar with to help people get through their sicknesses. Pretty basic stuff for that time. Uses some science, and people are like, science is magic! Burn the witch! And that whole thing. Really enjoyed this book. If you're looking for some witchy historical fiction, go for this. She did change the ending, so it's not Tituba's actual life. She, like, gave her an ending that she liked better, because, I mean, it is historical fiction. She kind of built a life out of the information that she could find on Tituba. But I loved it. And also, this book is really hard to find. I could only get it on Amazon. None of the other book sites that I found had it available. And The Existence of Amy is also one that I am right in the middle of. I had the author actually reach out to me, and she's like, hey, I've got this book on mental health. Here's the link to it if you want to check it out. If you're interested, I'll send it to you. So she sent it to me for review. I'm liking it so far. When I'm done, I'm probably going to go ahead and unhaul it to the kids that I work with, because I think they're going to get a lot out of this. But I'm enjoying it. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a dedicated review for it yet, but I will have a review up in some way or another soonish. And Barnes & Noble, again, because I've been to Barnes & Noble too much lately. Stranger in a Strange Land. I don't remember how it ended up getting on my TBR, but it got on my TBR. It's what a guy comes from Mars and is trying to learn what being human is, and that description just reminds me a lot of Third Rock from the Sun, which is one of my favorite TV shows ever. I thought that was just so hilarious. Because you have this group of aliens who comes down to Earth and they're like, how do you human? And it's so good. I loved it. And that's probably not the vibe of this book, but that particular storyline just has a place in my heart, so I want to pick this up soon. And if you have been watching my wrap-ups lately, you know I just finished Sci-Fi July. I've got a very dangerous pile over here. I just finished Sci-Fi July, and in doing Sci-Fi July for the Devour Your TBR club on Goodreads, I just got myself on a sci-fi kick and a sci-fi mood, and I needed to read lots of sci-fi books. Speaking of which, another book from this haul that I don't have with me is Binti from Nettie Okorafor, and I hated it so much, and I have a review that I will link above because it made me angry. And that book is getting donated. It has been a bad book. Very bad. It will be punished by not living on my bookshelves anymore. Moving on. The 3-body problem, because I can't get enough Emily Fox's videos, and her recommendations have been like a little hit, a little miss for me, but I've gotten something out of them, and she keeps talking about the 3-body problem, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna read it. Also, I'm trying to expand my countries in my reading, and this author is from China, so good expansion on that. And I haven't read much for non-white science fiction, and it's definitely something that I want to get more of a taste of, because science fiction, historically, according to my shelf, is very white male, which is also another reason why I picked up Binti, because I've been getting into Afrofuturism lately, which you would also know if you watched one of my previous wrap-ups. Last physical book that I have with me is The Vanishing Half. You should all be familiar with this. It has gotten so much hype. I haven't heard a single bad thing about it. And it's also on my I'm going to read this next list, which is ever expanding. But it's a contemporary. It's about a set of twins who are white passing and come from a black family. They get divided up somehow. I don't know if one of them is missing, but it just looks interesting. It looks like exactly the kind of book that I would enjoy, so going to read that. Also, when I said my list wasn't as bad as I thought it was for my haul, I didn't take into account all the other books that I have listed on my phone that I don't have physically. So, let me go get my phone. I left the room, I came back, I saw that I forgot a book, because you know me, I forget things all the time. It's kind of a problem. Tender is the Flesh. I have a review up here. It was super amazing and super creepy. Do not recommend if you can't take a punch to the gut. But it was so good. It was so bad, but it was so good. Just watch my review. Okay, summer books that I don't have with me physically. Children of Time and Children of Ruin. This, right now, is a duology. I'm not sure if there's going to be a third book in this series, but it's pretty weird. It's another recommendation that I took off of Emily Fox's videos. You've got giant intelligent spiders and people in space trying to find a new planet to inhabit, and it's really interesting. The second book I need to read again because it was just in a haze of some sort. Like, I could not concentrate on it, and I know it was a good book, and I know it had some cool elements, but I can't actually tell you anything that happened in it, because I was struggling. I went through a time period of probably 2 or 3 months there where I could not concentrate on an audiobook, and I think this book was the start of it. But that said, I know it's a good book. Another book that I read on audiobook was Spin. This was another Emily Fox recommendation and was not into it. I just talked about it in my last wrap-up. I expected hard sci-fi, and instead I got family drama, and there was the hard sci-fi element, but that wasn't the focus of the book, and I wanted that to be the focus. So it just wasn't for me. It's got lots of good reviews, and mine isn't going to be one of them. Last book that I have to talk about is These Women, which I looked at my list before this and I'm like, These Women, what is These Women? And ends up, it's a book that looked cool on, I don't know if it was on someone's video or something, but apparently I saw the book called These Women, and I had an extra credit sitting on Audible because I'd paid for a couple of credits. And so I ended up getting These Women, and it's an audiobook, and I haven't listened to it yet, and I can't tell you anything about it. But I have it, because I had an extra credit. That is it for my book haul. Next, I have to get up the energy to film my winter haul revisit, which is going to be interesting. Do I even have it listed what I bought then? Oh yeah, I can look back at my videos. I'm going to go figure all this out and do my next video, but I hope you all enjoyed this. It's time for me to try and lift the stack, which is already trying to fall. Not right now, whoever you... Look what you did, phone! Look at this! That's what I get for having my phone in here. Inconvenient phone calls that make me drop my books. This is not gonna work out. I'm usually pretty good at picking up stacks, but this is all very floppy paperbacks that are not wanting to work together. I've had more books than this before. I should be able to do this. Okay. They're slipping already. I think it would be better with some more hardbacks in here. But here we go. Ta-da! I'll see you all in my next one before it crashes and burns. Bye, friends.